All right, I'm going to walk you through the basics of HQ Webinar and how to get started. So first things first, hqwebinar.com/dashboard. We're going to go ahead and log in. Once we get logged into the platform, I'll walk you through how this works. Right here in the top bar, you can see any webinars you have currently. You can see who your users are. If you have some folks that you've registered for upcoming events. If you're a reseller, you'll have the My Customers link. If you're not, that won't be there. There's your app integration. This is where you're going to link your PayPal or any of your autoresponders. Analytics, this is where you'll be able to see everything from your webinars, your attendees, where they're coming from, as far as where they're watching it from. And then you can also click on any recordings that you've done. Now, I've created this specific account for demonstration purposes to walk you through. So that's this bar here. Up at the top, you can click on settings, and this is where you can go through, set up your name, your email, put in your website. If you want, you can also add a profile image. I'm going to go ahead and add mine here really quick. Now, when you add a profile image, one thing you'll notice is it will bring it up and give you the ability to crop that image. So you can zoom in, zoom out, adjust the size of the box to fit whatever you want. Once you hit crop, that will adjust that image, and then you can hit update. You'll notice email settings here. This is where you can put in a custom signature. So I can put Matt Koenig, and then I'm going to say, helping the best get better. Nope, actually, you're just one moment away. Matt Koenig, and I'm going to put in my book me calendar, book time with me at. Boom. Alrighty, now if I want that to be an actual link, I can just click this link here and make sure that it's in there. Alright, I'm going to hit update, and that way my signature's there. Now, domain setup, if you want to set up a subdomain like I did here, you can put that in and click set up subdomain. If you want to set up a full domain so that it doesn't have HQ Webinar, you can follow the instructions for doing that, but that'll be a completely different video. So, now that we've gone through settings, let's go to My Events, and let's just start from the beginning here. First things first, let's click Create a New Webinar. Now you'll have two choices, a live webinar or an evergreen webinar. An evergreen webinar is where you upload a pre-recorded webinar, but you set it to look as though it's live. That way you can set it to run every so often. You can keep publishing it out, and people will feel like it's live. They'll always be able to go watch the webinar, but the webinar is actually pre-recorded. A live webinar speaks for itself. Let's start with the live webinar. Now, first thing we're going to do is give it a title. We're going to call this test webinar. We can add a picture to the webinar. It's optional if we want to. I'm just going to go ahead and grab my profile photo again. I'm going to make that the webinar picture. Now, we choose some tags here. If we want to hashtag it, webinar, learning, e-learning. And we're going to look at today's date. And right now it's almost 11 p.m. So I'm going to set this for, we'll just drag this if we want. I'm going to say we're going to do this at 11, let's say 11:05. Now, if we don't set it at least 10 minutes ahead, it'll give you a thing saying, sorry, you have to set it further ahead. I'm going to put a description. This is a test. And we've already uploaded the picture. If we want to change it, we can. Down here, do we want the chat on? Yes. Public. Do we want to redirect people after the webinar? Sure. I want to send them to my website. And it's going to be a free webinar. If you've connected a payment structure or a payment source, you can make it a paid webinar. Now, if it's save on all of this, now down here, I'm going to go to email funnel, and I'm going to turn it on. That way, if someone registers for my webinar, they're going to get this email. Congratulations. It'll fill in their name, everything else. And then down below, I'll be able to see how many people are registered if they have already, or who the registrants are. If I want to custom build a page, I can do so there. If I want to do a QR code to share on social media so they can scan and join. Now, I can also simulate chat. I can actually create, you see a lot of people, Russell Brunson, some of those guys, Lewis House have webinars with what's really simulated chat. Looks like a lot of folks are chatting, but if you watch the webinar more than once, you'll notice it's the same folks. It's because they've done what's called simulated chat, where you can create a fake name and email address and decide when you want their comments to trigger. We're not going to go through that now. That'll be at a different time. If you've uploaded a video, if you're doing an evergreen webinar, that's where you would upload subtitles if you wanted, but you don't have to. And finally, here's a call to action. If you want to trigger one, you can put it in here. You can put the link, what you want the button to say, and how long you want that call to action to be live. So if I say, get my new course, and I put it on my website, and I say, click here now, and I'm going to say, I want that to time out after 60 seconds in. All right, cool. Call to action's there. Now, all that's done. If I want to invite someone to be a co-host on the webinar where people can see them and myself having a conversation, I can always put them in here, and I can send an email to them, like I'll send it to my other email. But in this case, I'm not going to actually join as two people. But that's how you add a coordinator to the webinar. They'll get an invite. They'll have to accept it. Now, notice up here it says join room. We're going to go ahead and click on this right now. Now, the webinar is not yet live, right? We know this because the webinar is not supposed to start till 11:05 p.m., but I'm showing you this anyway. So here's where messages are for live chat. If you're chatting with your co-host, this is where you can chat privately. This is the public chat with everyone. Attendees, this is where you'll see all the people on the webinar. Coordinators are your co-hosts, so this will show you who your other co-hosts are if they've joined. And then right here are your settings. If you want to mute the attendees, you can. If you want to make the chat private, you can. If you want to make the attendee list private so no one can see the other attendees, you can do that. You can also install a Chrome extension if you want to do screen sharing on your desktop. I've already got it installed, obviously. And then down here, you can look and see, okay, how do we want the recording setting to be? So when it's recording this webinar, how do we want it? And I'm going to just say horizontal. There's the registration link again if you need to share it out with people. But I'm going to go ahead and enter the room. Now, the webinar, of course, is not yet live, but we're going to go ahead and make sure everything's good. We're going to click on camera and mic test. So I'm going to test my camera. And I've got my microphone here, my Samsung mic, or I could use my default one. Play a sound to make sure that everything works.
Your audio device is working fine.
Everything's good. Now I'm going to click start recording. So everything's good there. And boom, webinar is going live. Now, I'm doing this live webinar. You guys can see this. This is how easy it is to make this work. I can go over to messages and I can say, hey everyone, and it'll pop in there. If there were other folks in there, they would see it as well. Now, of course, this webinar is not real. It's purely a test to demonstrate this for you. Now you can test your camera and mic. You can test your connectivity. You can enter full screen mode if you want so that it doesn't show anything else, doesn't show any stuff around there. But this is how easy HQ Webinar is to operate. It's probably the easiest webinar platform you're ever going to use. Now down here we can mute the mic. We can turn off our camera. If we want, we can start the screen share, or we can share a video. Let's say we've got a video we want to share on YouTube or something. We can populate it in here and actually share that video. So let's say I want to show that on the webinar, and I'm going to go pull a video here. Why Thanos should fear Iron Man the most. And if I want to share a video here from YouTube, I can just paste that video URL right in here and click share video.
He was the one who started it all.
Now, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this platform, and notice how fast and easy and smooth it is. It's built on blockchain technology, so the more folks that are on the webinar, actually the more power it has, and the better bandwidth it has. So that's how easy this platform is to use. Up here, you can show and hide the chat window, by the way, if you just want to be full screen, you don't want to see the chat. But this is it. It is one of the easiest things you'll ever use. You're going to love it. The folks that you're sharing the webinar with are going to love it. Oh, by the way, there you go. The call to action, if you want to just show up in the chat window, you can show that to folks. Hey, get my new course. Right, so I clicked on this. It shows it. Click here now. When they click it, it'll open up the new window. And that's really it. Now, I'm going to stop recording. And I'm going to go ahead. It says the recording's been saved. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Yes, I want to end it. Now, remember I said I was going to redirect attendees. So it'll ask me, do I want them to? I say yes, and now anyone who would have been viewing the webinar would have been redirected. Now that the webinar's over, I can go ahead and click on recordings and test webinars in here. If I want to just watch the video, I can see it there. If I want to download it, I can download it there. If I want to get a replay link to share with people, it'll share it with them like this in this nice replay window. If I want to show it to them that way. What else? If I want to just share that video out, there's the link to share with folks so that they can watch it in their preferred browser. And that's really how simple HQ Webinar is, my friends. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out. Of course, you've got my email address, but feel free to reach out with any questions. Thanks again for watching this simple